Practice emotional regulation. What works well es bueno. Maintain emotional regulation during high-pressure situations to set the tone for the team. Real-world experience. Emotional regulation has been one of my toughest battles. It wasn't just a professional challenge, it was personal. There were moments when the weight of leadership and relentless management pressures felt like they were crushing me. At times, I would retreat pissed, not at anyone specifically, but at the sheer frustration I was drowning in. Looking back, I realized people could feel my energy. They didn't know the inner turmoil, the stress I was trying to navigate, and I can only imagine how it must have been interpreted. That's something that still stays with me. One of the real turning points was when a coworker pulled me aside and said, "I feel bad for you. I see it when you're getting agitated, but it's so clear that it's because of how you're being spoken to. It's not you, it's them." That hit me hard. They saw it, saw that my reactions weren't just about me, but a response to the constant disrespect and gaslighting I was enduring. It was like I was being baited into losing control. I had to learn, slowly and painfully, to not let them get to me, to not rise to the bait even when everything in me wanted to fight back. And let me tell you, that is a hard thing to do when someone is being disrespectful and outright attacking you. One specific incident stands out. The person kept calling my name over and over, demanding a reaction. They expected me to lash out, like they probably wanted. Instead, I stayed calm, took a deep breath, and simply said, "I'm still processing." That was it. I didn't give them the reaction they were looking for, and I walked away with my dignity intact. But I'll be honest, it didn't happen overnight. I had to work on it until emotional regulation wasn't just something I tried. It became who I was. Rima's "Calm Down" became an anthem for me during this process. The lyrics and rhythm remind me of what it means to stay grounded, to breathe, and to approach every challenge with clarity and calmness. In leadership, it's easy to be pulled into the chaos of pressure and stress, but I've learned that the real power lies in slowing down, much like the message in "Calm Down," not letting the external world dictate your inner peace. The line, "Girl, you know, say me, I too like to calm down," resonates because it mirrors the way I now handle situations. No matter how heated things get, I remind myself to calm down and assess the situation with a clear head. Now, when issues arise, I focus on the root of the problem, not the noise. I let my team vent when needed, but then we get back to what's important, solving the problem together. That's been my anchor. Staying calm, like Rima's song reflects, allows me to show my team that we can navigate any storm as long as we approach it with patience and perspective. And yes, I've lost my temper before. I felt compelled to apologize to those affected, not because they didn't deserve to be held accountable, but because I knew I didn't handle it the way I should have. Most accepted my apology, but there's still one or two who didn't. That's their right, and I own that. All I can do is try to be better every single day. If you're reading this and I never got to you, if I never said the words you needed to hear, please know that I'm sorry. In many tech departments, everything I learned about effective leadership was disregarded. I was taught to reward the behavior you want to see, but it became clear that there were different strokes for different folks. Those who demonstrated behaviors that would get many of us warned or even terminated for repeat offenses were instead rewarded. We were punished for trivial, meaningless things, while blatant offenses, at least in the eyes of those watching, were overlooked or even celebrated. In male-dominated spaces, emotional regulation was a double-edged sword. I watched many men lose their tempers, explode in meetings, and it was brushed off. No one wrote them up. No one called them out. Hell, they even got promoted. Meanwhile, women like me didn't get the same leeway. I saw a woman lose her temper maybe once or twice, and that was it. She was immediately labeled aggressive. One outburst from me, and I knew I'd wear that label permanently. The hypocrisy was maddening. Ignorance is not an excuse, and arrogance makes it even worse to accept. One of my direct reports once told me how he didn't think it was appropriate for the head of our department to say in meetings how he was triggered by expectations not being met, especially when he never made those expectations clear to begin with. They added, Amervis, if being at work triggers him, he should get therapy and not talk to us with such disdain. No lies told. I felt the same way. What made it even more interesting was that I had made it a habit to ask my direct reports, how can I help? Always striving to offer real support. But when I raised valid concerns, I didn't get that same level of care in return. Instead, at least one job, all I got was an employee assistance program, EAP number. And this wasn't even the worst environment I'd been in. In some of the other workplaces, where hostility was the norm, leaders were more concerned with protecting their positions of privilege than fostering a healthy, supportive culture. I once read a post that said, some leaders don't need executive coaches, they need therapy. I couldn't agree more. Some leaders absolutely do. I did. They pushed me so far that one day I finally broke down and called that EAP number they kept offering as a fix for the toxic environment. Instead of addressing the root of the problem, I got a referral to therapy, something I suspect the very people who needed it most never used, while the rest of us were left to pick up the pieces. What does not work so well? No bueno. Poor emotional regulation creates chaos. I've seen it time and time again. Leaders who can't keep it together in stressful moments, they tear the team apart. I've witnessed projects fall apart because a leader couldn't handle the heat, raising their voice and letting their emotions take over. It kills the psychological safety a team needs to function. People withdraw, communication shuts down, and suddenly no one wants to say anything because they're afraid of setting off another emotional explosion. I've lived that. I've seen what happens when you can't control your reactions. And I've also seen how it stifles the people around you. But it's not just about learning to stay calm. It's about creating an environment where everyone feels safe to speak, to contribute, without fear of backlash. Emotional regulation isn't just about maintaining your own composure. It's about cultivating a space where your team feels safe and secure enough to do the same. This concludes Chapter 44. Please proceed to Chapter 45. Fostering a growth mindset, turning challenges into opportunities.